Good morning, good evening, good day, and welcome to Drama Buds. I'm Francine. I really love K-dramas, and I'm going to spend as much time as I want talking about them. Welcome to my podcast. So, hello everyone. So, before we begin, I just wanted to talk about my K-drama preferences in general for a bit. Because as I was looking through all the shows I've talked about before and the shows I'm planning on making an episode for, I realized that the shows I like are almost, overwhelmingly sad and or serious. And I thought, like, do I not like rom-coms or comedies even? And I'm just not a fan of comedies most of the time because probably because I don't completely understand Korean humor. It's like comedies usually have like a funny premise, yeah, and then they have to have like some sort of thin plot going on behind it, just to keep the show going. And I can't help but criticize that plot because if you're going to give me something that I'm used to watching, like I watch a lot of serious plot heavy shows, yeah. So, if you give me plot, I can't help but criticize it. Even if I'm telling myself it's a comedy, it doesn't have to be that deep, but I'm used to deep. So I can't help but criticize it. Like, okay, for example, we tried watching The Good Manager, which I love Nam Gung Min. He I'm sure he was pretty funny, but there was some weird, I don't know, corruption or conspiracy plot going on, and I think we made it through like 2 episodes and then dropped it because it was just the funny stuff, it happens, but there's still this plot and it's just a very lame plot. I'm sorry. And then another show that we would have liked was Mr. Queen, which, yeah, the premise is really funny, and Shin Ye-sun is the queen. She really is funny as, a man from the modern era transported into the body of a queen from, a sagok era. Like, yeah, okay, that's funny, but there's this political conspiracy going on, and like I just could not pay attention. It was so boring in those parts. But when she's funny, she's so funny. Do you get my point? It's like if the serious stuff is not good, then the comedy will just like barely save a show. And in general, I like slice of life shows that are leaning sort of funny or comedic because, slice of life shows usually or should have like strong, likable characters. So even if there's no plot going on, I'm sure they have to work hard on writing good characters because that's all we're in it for. You get my point? And like, okay, at least with rom-coms, like everything can be excused if the OTP, the main couple, has good chemistry. Like I'll take it, even if the funny is not that funny, if if the com is not good, the rom better be. I will take the romance. So, yeah, in general, just not a fan of comedies. And, oh, okay. For a specific writer, Park Hae-young, writer of My Mister and Another Miss O. Love My Mister, Another Miss O was a bit of a miss for me. Yes. You know why? I realized this. We realized this when we were watching. We like I like the emotional stuff, the sad stuff, the character depth and everything. Like My Mister is almost overwhelmingly sad, but they did have that comedic subplot with the brothers, which I did not pay attention to all that much. And then with Another Miss O, like I liked it a lot less. I did not like it all that much, to be honest, because I like the emotional stuff with Oh Hae-young and the guy and the characters. But there were so many like comedic subplots with the brother of Eric Moon, and then the sister, and then the co-workers, and then the family, and it's just like I don't want comedy because the comedy to me is very corny. I like the feelings. Just give me the feelings, okay? I'll even take the romance. It's fine. The comedy, I don't want it. So yeah, in general, like a show to me could be ruined by comedy. Yeah, it's a me thing. It's just my preference. Now I'm going to talk about what I would probably consider to be my favorite comedy. Yeah, I think our show for today, The Producers, is my favorite like comedic K-drama because I mean it leans more comedy than rom-com, but I'll explain that later. So yes, our show for today is The Producers, and a little background on me, how I ended up watching this as usual. So I love Kim Soo-yoon, right? First love. My first K-drama love, really. And I also love IU, just in general, as a person, as an actress, as a singer, everything. And I don't completely love Gong Yoo-jin, but I have accepted her acting. I've just gotten used to it. So sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. In this case, it's pretty much a hit. Cha Tae-yoon, I haven't watched him in anything other than Along with the Gods, I think. So yeah, I didn't know much about him. But I know he's a funny guy. So this show it's been on my watch list forever because I mean it's Kim Soo Yoon and IU. Why would I not want to watch it? And I really did not regret watching the show because I especially do not regret watching it now that I've watched a lot of like K-dramas and variety shows, and of course I've been a K-pop fan since 2012. So like I'm glad that I amassed all the knowledge of references and actors and comedians that I know because of all that background information, I was able to really appreciate the humor of this show. It's a very niche. It has a very niche audience, I think. The audience that will fully appreciate it because yeah, you have to know a lot about K-drama, K-pop, and variety shows. And it's full of references and cameos. So yeah, you'll lose the humor if you don't get it. And it's a little weird because it was first portrayed through a mockumentary, so I'll just talk about that later. If you don't get the references, it's weird. It's awkward. It's not that funny. It's pretty boring, probably. But if you do get it, it's hilarious. It really is super, super funny. So, The Producers is about the reality of being in the entertainment industry. It's about like the life of variety show and music show producers in KBS, which is a real, broadcasting station in Korea, by the way. And like, the struggles of running an unpopular show, dealing with broadcasting regulations and all that, and also about being an idol or singer in a harsh industry. Just those entertainment industry struggles in general. So now I'll start talking about the main characters. Our first main character is Baek Song Chan, played by Kim Soo Yoon. So Song Chan is a newbie in the entertainment division of KBS, and he's assigned to the travel variety show 2 days 1 night, which used to be very popular in its heyday, but now, I mean, at least in the fictional KBS of this show, it's now struggling with its ratings. So Song Chan before joining KBS, he studied law, but he decided to work in a broadcasting station because his college crush worked in the entertainment division. I still don't understand this choice, but okay. He's a smart guy, very, very like book smart and all that. But he seems dumb and awkward because he's a fish out of water essentially. Like, why is a law student here? But okay. He's socially awkward, he's kind of petty and childish, and he's like a little puppy when he's in love. And of course, he develops a crush on Takia Jin, and he follows her around and competes with her long history and deep friendship with Rajun Mo, while also being like completely oblivious of Cindy's feelings for him. I'm just saying the characters' names out loud, but I'll talk about them later, promise. And I think like his journey throughout the show is just about finally pursuing someone he likes, like finally finding the courage to just go for it, really, and being unafraid to like shoot his shot, Yeah, and then how he matures through that experience and through that process. So, our next main character is Tak Yejin, played by Gong Yojin. So, Yejin is the producer of Music Bank. It's like this weekly music show where idols get to perform. And she's known to be really strict. Like just a strict hothead that you have to be careful around if you catch her, in the wrong at the wrong day or at the wrong time. She's difficult to talk to, but because she's so like strict and assertive, like, she's great at her job. Yejin is perpetually single. Like, she can't really hold on to a relationship for very long. But her longest, well, not longest relationship, but her closest friendship, I guess, the longest relationship in all senses of the word is her childhood friendship with Rajunmo, who she secretly harbored feelings for a long time by now. But, she knew that they were always just going to be friends. Yejin's journey is really all about like just lowering her walls, I guess, being more vulnerable and softening and being less harsh on herself and on others. And I will talk about her a lot later. I really love Yejin's character despite everything. Okay. Our next character is Rajunmo, played by Cha Tae-yoon. So Junmo is the producer of 2 Days, 1 Night, where Song-chan was assigned to. And he's just really just struggling to keep the show alive because of some questionable, casting choices he made. It's gone down the drain. Oh, the super funny thing about this is like at the moment, I think, Cha Tae-yoon, the actor, really was part of the cast of 2 Days, 1 Night for several years at that point. So it's just super funny that he's playing the producer of the show he's actually in at the moment in real life. Okay, anyway. So, aside from that trivia, Junmo is a coward, He's the type to hide behind others or hide his feelings. And despite also liking Yejin and having feelings that he doesn't entirely understand. Like, when just someone is in your life and you don't exactly know how you feel about them, but you love them, but then like oftentimes that love is you're not entirely sure if it's purely platonic or if there's some romantic feeling in there, that kind of dynamic, I think. And despite having feelings for Yejin that he doesn't completely understand, he doesn't do anything about it, and just lets things happen between her and Song-chan. So in a way, he's kind of a professional about that, right? Like, okay, this person on my team wants to pursue my best friend who we also work with, and maybe I'll just let him instead of being petty and ruining his career chances or his life. So Junmo's like story is really about him being more open with his feelings and knowing how to express them at the right time in the right way. Okay. And lastly, we have Cindy, played by IU. Cindy is a popular idol who used to be part of a girl group before, but she was made into a soloist because she was the most popular and the most talented member. And like, she has this very cold and stuck up image. And honestly, as a person, like, she's very lonely because all her group members resent her because they got left behind with no careers, essentially. She has so many antis, like so many fans, but so many anti-fans as well. And like, she doesn't have parents and she blames herself for their deaths and all that. Like, yeah. And like, her mother figure essentially is her CEO, but her CEO treats her like a product to sell and overworks her and starves her to maintain her figure and her image and all that. And so in an attempt to change like her public image, how the people think about her, Cindy joins the 2 Days, 1 Night cast, to be seen in a different light, in a reality show light, try to seem more open and friendly and game for everything instead of being cold and stuck up and prissy and all that. And because of that, she ends up growing closer to the other three and she starts experiencing genuine warmth and kindness. Yeah. And she also starts developing feelings for Song-chan. Of course she would. But yeah, Cindy's journey in general is about accepting kindness and being kind to yourself, and being true to herself. Whatever that may be. Like, she's more than just this star, this celebrity who will always be alone. That's her whole story. So yeah, that's a pretty quick rundown of the characters, I guess. Um, okay, so what are my, general thoughts about this show? First, I gotta put it out there. I have to admit, honestly, I watched this in 1.5 times speed. And it's not because it was bad, or it was boring, or it was too slow. Honestly, it's because it's a comedy. And to me, it's like, what do I need to catch about the plot? Like, what do I need to really focus on? I just need to know what's going on. And in general, it's just their conversations and their humor and all that. And so I don't really need to spend an hour and 15 minutes usually to watch this show. I can cut it down 2/3 of that time. um but yeah, it was just a comedy, so I didn't take it super seriously. But I could tell that I was enjoying what I was watching. Okay, like, sometimes you need to watch things at 1.5 times speed just to get it over with, and then you end up liking it. Okay, that's what happened here. Okay, I have to talk about like the references and cameos. Yeah, once again, I mentioned I'm a fan of K-pop, K-drama, and variety shows. And you probably need background info on all three to fully appreciate the humor of the show. What's really funny about it though is like when the cameos of like real life celebrities are playing fictionalized versions of themselves based on their real life image. Like, it's just okay. For example, when Lee Sung-gi made a cameo here as himself, like his character was that he's just extremely burdened by his image of like being a really good person. So he's just excessively kind to everyone around him. And you don't know because he actually mentions that, he's burdened by the image. You can't really tell if he's genuine, like really kind, or if he's fake about it, or if he's internalized the fakeness and it has now become real. And it's funny because like Lee Sung-gi as a person is just like a really nice guy actually. He's and he's actually very funny as well, and he's an actor. So you don't know what in the meta is going on here. So yeah, this show is very, very meta. If you don't get the references, it's just weird and you have no idea what's going on. But if you do, it's so funny. I really love it. I think another thing that a lot of people might not appreciate all that much is the mockumentary style. It's like when when you make a show that seems like it's the making of a show, like a documentary, a mockumentary. Okay, The Office, Parks and Rec, those kinds of shows. The first 2 or 3 episodes, I think, like lean heavily on that. Like, it's heavily using the mockumentary lens where someone is really interviewing the characters and they're being followed around. Like, you even see the actual cameramen like being shooting the other characters. Yeah. And others, like, as I read comments and like tweets and stuff, like others found it really annoying. For me, it was okay, mostly because like some of my favorite Western shows use the mockumentary peg. And the show in itself is very meta. So it made it even more meta. And like, that was just funny to me. But yeah, I think that's because I'm used to it. And I didn't really mind it. And it's not like K-dramas often use that kind of storytelling technique or whatever. I don't know what to call it. Okay. But like the show dropped it after a few episodes and then took a more, traditional K-drama approach, which, I mean, it was probably easier for them in the long run because there were some scenes that wouldn't make sense if it was being filmed as a documentary. And like, yeah, at that point they still kept like the individual interviews thing where it's kind of like a character monologue or the way you see into their world or into their minds, without like what do you call that? A voiceover monologue. So I don't know. I guess I just got used to it over time, so it didn't really bother me. But others were really bothered by it. Like they didn't like it. Sadly, like the documentary itself didn't lead to anything in the end. Like, you know how The Office ended with them actually producing the documentary and viewing it. I mean, I didn't really expect something of that nature, but I don't know. It just felt like, okay, so it was a mockumentary that led to nothing. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, like when they finally dropped the mockumentary approach, it became more like story and romance focused. Because at the start, it was really focusing on like, how do you make a successful show? How does that work? What happens behind the scenes? So it did kind of make sense to me that they were filming it, quote unquote. But then when it became more focused on the characters and their stories and their journeys, the relationships with each other, like it didn't make sense that a cameraman would be following them around. So yeah, I think that's when they dropped the mockumentary approach. So I mentioned the characters and their relationships, which for me are really like it's the meat, the heart of the show. So first I want to talk about Tak Yejin. Yeah, Gong Yeojin's character. This is actually my favorite Gong Yeojin character. So I have a long history with this with this actress. I've watched her in When the Camellia Blooms, It's Okay That's Love, and now this. And I tried to watch her in Jealousy Incarnate, Don't Dare to Dream, and also Pasta with Lee Sun Kyun. Yeah, I think she's the actress I've tried the most shows in. Do you get that? Like I've tried the most of her shows. Some of them were a hit, some of them were a hard miss, hard pass. And this is definitely my favorite character, more than her character in It's Okay That's Love, really. And yeah, okay, she acts the same way in pretty much all of her shows. Okay, so if you don't like her acting, then maybe you should try another show. Maybe you like her character with that kind of acting. Because, sometimes, like, the character and the acting, they match. Sometimes they don't. Or sometimes you just don't like either of the two. But maybe in some certain combination, it'll be okay. So, yeah, just try her shows. Some of them are really good. Anyway, so Tak Yejin. For me, she's one of the most relatable K-drama characters. Like, I think I have finally found the K-drama character that represents me the most. And that does say something about me. I wonder. So like a lot of people, based on, comments on videos and tweets and everything, like a lot of people found her, frustrating and grumpy and annoying and selfish and insensitive, unreasonable, just a difficult person. And I get that. I totally respect that and understand it. But like what I like about Yejin is that she's actually very much self-aware of her attitudes and behaviors. Like she knows she's just acting tough, but she's like, a regular warm and weak person deep inside. And it doesn't help that this personality, being tough, being assertive, it's what got her to her position and kept her there. So it's difficult to stop being that way because you do your job really well with that kind of personality. And like at some point, you kind of lose sight of who you really are when you're not putting on that persona. When you internalize that, oh, I'm a tough, difficult person, when you internalize those characteristics, which people generally think are unlovable characteristics, when you start to internalize that, you start to believe that, yeah, I'm these things, and therefore I'm unlovable, I'm not worth loving. And like being tough and pushing people away is kind of a defense mechanism. Like it preempts the rejection that she's afraid of experiencing. Like, they can't push me away if I push them away first. That's kind of how it turns out. And so like her previous behaviors, being tough to establish herself, to be assertive, to get ahead, to do her job well, it created this cognition, this idea of herself that maybe I am a tough, mean, difficult person. And then like her previous behaviors created this cognition, which made her kind of perpetuate this behavior because I am tough and unlovable, I'll just keep acting the way I am because that's who I am, right? But then she's not really like that. So sometimes you feel like you just keep acting out this role and you don't really know who you are outside of that role anymore. And like that disconnect led to this feeling of loneliness because it's like no one really sees her. But that's because she personally has lost sight of herself and doesn't see who she actually is. It's like, who is that girl I see? No one else is going to see that but myself. Others will not see a side of me that I don't show them. You know? That went pretty deep. That I said she's relatable. Let's leave it at that. I won't expound on that. But as you can see, she's complex and she's human. Like, there are people like her out there in this world, guys. I promise they exist. But yeah, because of how complex that entire affect behavior cognition discussion is, I just really love her character and seeing how she grows with like the growth of her relationships as well, and how she interacts with others and how those interactions change over time. And like, aside from just being the way she is and being frustrating for other people, like others are also frustrated by her because she's caught up in this like stupid love triangle and she's oblivious about it. It's like she doesn't know that Baek Song Chan is chasing after her. But like, in my perspective, she just met the guy, he's a little kid to her. That's valid, right? I mean, she's not playing around with him. She's just like, maybe he's just a nice kid. And she's just navigating both of those relationships with Songchan, with Junmo, because both of those guys are being unclear about their feelings. Like, she's not a fortune teller, guys. She's not a psychic. She's just trying to live her life. So I don't even blame her for this whole love triangle situation. I blame those two idiots. But okay, I want to talk about like the cutest relationship in this show is really between Yejin and Junmo. Like, they are my ship, okay? Imagine childhood friends to lovers and they were roommates. Some of those are great tropes right there. Now, although they both are very frustrating at times, you can understand their hesitation. Like, why don't you just go for it? You've been friends forever. Why is this a problem? That is exactly the problem. They have been friends forever. You can't, you have to understand people's hesitation when jumping into a relationship like that. But the truth is, like, when you see them interact with each other and you see like Yejin's interactions with Songchan, honestly, you cannot beat time in history, especially if they're actually good for each other. Okay, that is a caveat. Like, you can't beat time in history if they're good for each other. But if they're terrible for each other, you most definitely should beat time in history. Like, for example, Junyoung and Jungkyung in Do You Like Brahms? Like, yes, they are childhood friends, but this is not going to work. There is too much history, but not in a good way, between these two. Okay, so go, Chaesonga. You go, girl. Get that. Get your boy. But with Yejin and Junmo, it's like, these two are genuinely there for each other. Like, they're genuinely good friends who've seen each other at their best and worst and understand each other, like, on a different wavelength to other people. So, yeah, like, you can't beat that. And honestly, if Yejin took Songchan's feelings seriously, like, he would still have to deal with her friendship with Junmo. Unless he tells her to cut him off, which would be terrible of him, and I would think he's a very toxic person. But yeah, like, you can't beat a friendship that deep, especially if there are feelings involved and they're really good for each other. So that's my ship. Those are my 2 cents on the love triangle. But okay, so the other side of the love triangle is Tak Yejin and Baek Song Chan. Classic Nuna romance. It just doesn't feel like they're on the same playing field. He just has this like schoolboy, little boy crush on her, puppy love crush, those kinds. And she sees him as, yeah, just a nice little boy. you know? And honestly, I feel like she's just part of his character development. Because for once in his life, he's being forthcoming about his feelings. He's found the courage to pursue someone, to go for it, without like calculating all the moves in advance. Like, just try. Just show someone how you feel and go for it. And like, in the process of that, he's not just sensitive to how he feels, he also starts becoming more sensitive to how others feel. Because he's like a very socially awkward, kind of dense person, And so he doesn't really know how to act around others in many ways, especially around Cindy, who obviously likes you dumb boy. But yeah, I think he starts to become more sensitive to others and start to know like the right thing to say at the right time for others, which I totally appreciate. I love that. So yeah, maybe Yejin is just character development for him, but not a great relationship. Okay, another not so great relationship. Not Yeah. Okay, is Baek Song Chan and Rajunmo. What's interesting? When I was thinking about them, I realized that there are actually a lot of parallels between these two characters. They're both cowards. Yes, they're both cowards who don't know how to express themselves. Like, you know what I mean, right? Like, Junmo is, in general, just a coward. Doesn't even understand his own feelings. And Songchan knows his feelings, but he doesn't trust himself to do anything without, like, thinking about every move in advance. He's the smart boy. He's a by-the-books boy. But, yeah. And the thing where they differ, though, is Songchan, like, grows from that and learns through experience. Like, he goes for it. Like, he finally is going to try to pursue Yejin and is going to do his best. He's going to be earnest about it. He's going to go for it. While Junmo learns through observation. Like, he learns, he realizes his own feelings through observing Songchan going for Yejin and realizing that he's not really entirely okay with that situation. That he wants to keep Yejin in his life in that way, perhaps. And, he doesn't, like, get too far. He doesn't have some huge confession and suddenly stops being a coward. Like, in many ways, at the end, he still eats his words a little bit. But he learns and he's trying. He's taking the steps towards being a more open and expressive person. And, like, the thing is, when Yejin needed him the most, Junmo knew exactly what to say. He doesn't lack in, like, the knowledge or the sensitivity. He just lacks, like, the courage to say it or the initiative to say it just of his own volition. Like, in a way, he kind of needed to be prompted or probed, like, please tell me what you think about me truly. And he knew exactly what she needed to hear. And, like, by watching how Songchan's words and actions kind of swayed Yejin's heart, like, there's a possibility there, Junmo knew what he had to do when he was given the chance. And he will always be given a chance. Like, I think that was the thing for me as I was watching the show. Like, even if Songchan and Yejin were getting closer and closer, I always thought, like, I still think she loves Junmo. Like, I still think that's where it's going. And, like, the moment that he expresses any sort of interest in Yejin will probably still choose Junmo. So, enough about these three. My poor girl Cindy. Okay, I love Cindy. I love IU as Cindy here. Cindy is the most pitiful character. She's deeply wounded. No one sees her for who she is, and she doesn't even try to be seen anymore. Like, same as Yejin, she just internalizes it. Like, okay, I'm a cold, tough person that no one will be kind to because I'm not a kind person. But she really has the best interactions with the rest of the cast. Like, at some point, she hides in Junmo's apartment where Yejin and Songchan essentially just take care of her because she's hiding from the public. And this is like her first time, going out with people and having friends. since she became an idol. It came from like the most random of places, just producers that she works with who, some of them didn't like her, some of them were just, you only saw her as an idol and not as a person. And like just being shown kindness made her realize that she's not a product. She's a person. She is human and she deserves kindness because she is a kind person. She is not what they are saying she is. And with that realization, she realized she's allowed to fight back and carve her own path and not be this, fabricated plastic product that they're trying to make of her. I love that. I love that story. Cindy has the most growth in this show. Definitely, definitely. Okay. My favorite comparison really is between Takejin and Cindy. Because, yeah, as I was like thinking of what to say about these characters, I realized the two men have parallels to each other. And the two women have parallels to each other as well. Like both of them are difficult. Like in one word, you can describe them as difficult. They're difficult people to be with, to work with, to talk to. They're tough, they're cold, no one wants to be around them. And the two characters butt heads with each other because they're both difficult people. But really, their their being difficult is just a manifestation of the disconnect they feel inside because they don't really know themselves. Like they start to let their walls down when they realize that they're just putting on a front and that they're more than just the difficult, unlovable people that they've kind of created or made into their image. In Yejin's case, she's shown love, right? She's shown that someone is interested in her for once, but she pushes it away because she doesn't think she's worthy of it. Because she has internalized this idea that she's a tough, unlovable person that no one wants to be with. So she pushes it away when she finally gets a chance. But because of that, very, clear or very it's a very clear moment when, why don't I just accept it? Because isn't this what I wanted? Don't I just want to be loved? When she pushes it away of her own volition, that's when she realizes that is not a normal or a healthy response to something that I want. I didn't push it away just because I didn't like him. I think there's something more internal. There are more internal issues within me that perhaps maybe it's my self-image or my self-esteem. Maybe I have issues with those. And that's when she starts addressing those issues. And for Cindy's case, Cindy, for once in her life, has shown just genuine kindness and friendship for the first time in pretty much her adult life or her teen life even. And she's given a chance instead of being shunned. Instead of people treating her like she's a cold idol who's difficult to be with and to work with and we shouldn't give her a chance. When she messes up, when she proves, that she is this terrible, unkind person, let's just drop her. No, for once she is given a chance to stay, to prove herself as a kind, good person. And yeah, that's when she starts to see that maybe she is a good person. Maybe people do see me as something different from this image that I've created of myself. And maybe I am truly that person, not this cold, unlovable, stuck up person. I think their stories to me, it's about how sometimes you need help to address your issues because the realization that there is something to address doesn't just come out of thin air. You don't just magically realize that, oh, maybe I have a problem. Sometimes you need a little push. You need people to believe that you are more than your problem, to realize that there is a problem in me. That went deep, but I really love these two characters. I just think they are, despite their not relatable situations, their personalities and their internal struggles are very much relatable in many, many ways. I will not talk about that. Okay. So that's it for me. As I was writing my outline for this and like thinking about the characters again, because I actually watched this show a few weeks ago, so my feelings and my thoughts are not so fresh. And so yeah, I was forgetting a lot of things. I had to rewatch some scenes just to talk about like the specific incidents that I felt showed the most of their character development. But yes, as I was writing this, I started to really understand the characters more. Like, to me, they're very real. Like, I'm sure there are other people like them in real life. Different situations, different relationships, different backstories, and whatever. But something about their characters, very real. Which is why they're frustrating. Because real people are really frustrating and annoying sometimes, you know? But I found them likable. Like, there is still some good in these people, really. I don't think they're terrible people who should not exist in the world. They do exist, but they have the chance to be better. So, I really like that. Um, as I mentioned, this is a comedy, right? I don't like comedies when they depend so heavily on like the premise or the gags or aspects of Korean culture that I do not understand probably. And like if you just focus on the comedy aspect of the show or the love lines, you might not appreciate it that much and see it as just very shallow and very directionless. Like nothing really changes or happens to these people, They don't magically change their situations or anything. Like, well, yeah, the only one with like a huge change is Cindy because she becomes independent from her evil CEO. But the rest, like, they stay in their jobs, they stay with kind of the same relationships. Like, nothing really happened to them. But it's all about like the internal changes, Like, this is a comedy. Wait, let me clear up the genre of this show. This is a comedy with a lot of romance, but it's not a rom-com. Like, I don't fully know how to explain it, but this is not a rom-com in the traditional sense. It's a comedy with romance, but it was rooted, like, the entire story was rooted in its characters and their relationships with one another, you know? So that's where I feel like this show really shined because maybe they didn't change their circumstances all that much. Like they didn't magically make 2 days, one night into this huge, 20% ratings show. But like as people, they changed. As people, they realized that they had, issues and things to work with. They realized that they have the courage and the knowledge to make it through, to change like something about themselves or something about their relationships, to pursue what they want, to who they want to pursue, like a lot of internal things. And it's really not all that grand. But because I was able to, like as the audience, I was able to see it, I thought it was a good internal character change story, And it really benefited from like only having 12 episodes. Because I feel like, if I watch 16 episodes of like over an hour, yeah, the episodes are over an hour long. 16 episodes of that, and it's like they're not really trying to change anything or like, no huge plot going on. It's just a lot of, conversations and discoveries and realizations and interactions with each other. Like if I had 16 episodes of that, I'd probably hate this show because it just did nothing. it went nowhere. But because it was just 12 episodes, I was able to really appreciate like their journeys as characters. Like nothing huge had to change in their lives, but they made all the right steps to be better people at the end of it. So yeah, I like the show. Like in many ways, this is the kind of comedy I like. Because it's a comedy that is funny, and I get why it's funny, and it has strong characters. I'm good with that. I won't complain about that. What else is there for me? Yeah, I think we're good. Today. So if you're interested in K-pop, K-drama, variety shows, this show, The Producers, it's a good one. It's funny. It's great. The acting is, they're all good at acting like real people. Gong Yoo-jin will, of course, just be herself. IU is a great is great at being a glamorous idol. Kim Soo-hyun is great at being stupid. And Cha Tae-hyun is great at being just like a rough, kind of not awkward. I don't know how to describe his character, but he's fun. He's okay. Acting it's okay. The OST is very cute, very poppy actually. I really like the OST, but none of them are like super standouts to me. The writer. This is the writer, by the way, of Chloe, I think. I think this is the same writer as Chloe, My Love from the Star. That writer. So yeah, it's about like pretty okay people finding themselves in kind of absurd situations. If that's your jam, this is kind of, it has a lot of that. And that's it for me. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in today. It's a really fun show. I highly recommend it if you think you'll get the references and all of that. And if you don't, well, just stick to it, because no matter how frustrating and annoying these characters are, you probably know someone in real life just like them. So, thank you for tuning in today, and I will see you soon.